All right, I wanted to record this session for a flow trading plan as well. And right here, if we go into YM, then what do we see? We are very close towards the low right there. So the draw liquidity on the higher time frame is quite clear. And on the lower time frame, we can just wait and essentially wait for the lower time to guide us there. So we come back into that 4-hour fair value gap right here. Now, the main thing that I want to point out is that we have 1 hour beautiful sharp turn right there. And a few details is that we do not create a 4-hour fair value gap going higher right there. We have 1 hour fair value gaps going higher right there at the beginning of the session. And then after we have a huge move low right there. So this is very interesting and looking very good to potentially move lower towards these lows as well. So that is personally how I would go about a flow trading plan, which is, again, it's overall already, most likely you already have a quite a good understanding of where the higher time frame might want to move towards. And when you have that, just let the 1 hour right there and the 4 hour guide you. So what are 4 hour signs? No 4 hour fair value gap higher created right there. Perfect. We have this 4 hour fair value gap right there that we're running into potentially. Some resistance. On the 1 hour, what do we see? 1 hour sharp turn, 1 hour fair value gap lower. Perfect as well. So here we can potentially look to continue lower right now, based on fair value areas, based on the candle signs, and again, based on those order flow fair value gaps. So here, let's see if we can now potentially get involved. Now on the 1 hour, we are moving lower off this 1 hour fair value gap right there towards these lows. Can we wait for a 1 hour fair value gap to be created to continue lower off that? Yes, we can. But in a scenario like this, in a specific scenario where the draw liquidity is already very clear, we're already coming off a 4 hour context, 1 hour context as well. This is where I would go into the 15-minute time frame to look at 15-minute fair value gaps to potentially continue lower off of that instead. So here, if we already created 15-minute fair value gap lower right there, I would like to get involved off of that. Now, it is quite important to understand, of course, I wouldn't want to see big retracements. So ideally, a 15-minute fair value gap right here could be very interesting. This 15-minute fair value gap, yes, could be interesting, but I would not want to see a big retracement in that right there to continue lower. So overall, we can see that the lower time frame right now is pointing towards lower prices right there. So let's study this a little bit and let's see if we are indeed correct and if we can continue lower. There's also watch out for signs that might be there that we do not want to continue lower instead. Now, one thing that I do want to go over as well is here on the daily, we did not create a daily fair value gap right there. But when we are this close to a drawn liquidity right there on the 4 hour, it's still quite clear that that retracement is not too crazy to make. Then that doesn't worry me too much right here. So that is perfectly fine for me as well. And let's study this. All right. Now, we have opened up with a new 1 hour candle and on the 15-minute as well, a new 15-minute candle right there. So we have this fair value gap as well that we leave behind, which we can potentially trade back into. The swing low that just got swept right there could be used as a catalyst to trade back into the fair value gap to then continue lower off of that as well. Now, in this scenario, we also have a 1 hour fair value gap, and this is what I want to pay attention to as well, is that this 1 hour fair value gap might not be created, right? If we get somewhat of a retracement, we might not even create the 1 hour fair value gap. In this case, if we still deliver into a 50-minute fair value gap right there, continue lower off that, and it's just a little bit of a sting higher, again, same premise on the daily right there. I am personally not too worried about that because I'm more confident about the draw liquidity that it is actually going lower right there. So there's something to take into account that not every fair value gap that doesn't get created, not on the daily, on the 1 hour, doesn't really matter, is something I'm worried about. If we can still look, well, for example, if we look at this right here. Here we fail to create a fair value gap right there higher, but we also don't have anything on the 15-minute right there that we actually can continue higher from. So on the 15-minute, the same thing happens. Now that would worry me, but if we still have an area that we can perfectly fine continue lower from, and to make that happen, and we can continue lower from, it happens to be a sting into the first candle low on the 1 hour right there, then it is what it is, and we can still continue lower. That's usually what a immediate rebalance is. An immediate rebalance on the next candle right there. So let's monitor this. No weird bullish signs or anything that would throw me off of being bearish right here. So let's study this again. And I do still think we can continue lower as well. All right. Excuse me. Excuse me. All right. We just closed with that 15-minute candle right there. Now, this is exactly what I mean, right? Where the 15-minute candle close is beautiful, but you would have gotten very confused if you do not really understand the way those fair value gaps work right there. The 1 hour fair value gap not being created, etc. Where the 15-minute candle close is by itself is a beautiful candle close right there, and we can definitely look to continue lower as well. It's important to note that we first went above the highs right there. It's important to note that we first went below those lows in that candle right there and then above the highs. Because let's say we first went above the highs and then came below the lows and we were about to sweep these lows right there with a candle close like that, that would worry me a lot more than if we first come below it and then we continue higher a little bit. So small little detail, quite important. Now, I do not want to go too much advanced right now, but eventually what we want to build towards is, of course, the understanding that this right here, off of that 15-minute context right there, this 1 minute ST even, can be an entry right there. And targeting 1 to 2 lower to target the remainder of this, this overall context that we are in as well. So even a 15-minute candle rejection entry right there could be very interesting as well. Things we're going to go over later on, but just want to show you the possibilities. So right here, as of yet, we're mainly going over bias and narrative right now. And when we talk about bias and narrative, it's still looking very good for low prices. So still nothing crazy to discuss. The important thing here is that we do now, ideally, the focus should be that we create a new fair value gap as soon as possible. So below this low right there is where we can create an expansion phase candle right there. That is the ideal scenario right there. See if we have any resistance towards the left. Not necessarily major resistance, a little bit of a weird wick right there. So I imagine the actual low is somewhere around there that we came below, but nothing too crazy. So ideally we should create a new 15-minute fair value gap as soon as possible right now. If we do not do that, or we start to again continue higher, that would put me off a little bit, and then I would want a new fair value gap completely right there on the 15-minute to continue lower off of that instead. All right, well, a nice delivery right there to continue lower as well. Like we discussed, the no resistance area really. And 1 minute entry again, small detail that's how we would want to approach that, right? So we would enter like that to then cover the high right there to then eventually target 1 to 2, etc. within the context, which is this low right there ideally. Now, after a moment like this, it's quite important to understand, for me, everything falls away. So for me, everything is done right here. I don't want to do anything anymore. I don't want to get involved anymore. Don't want to do anything new anymore. I want to simply stop trading for now. So that is quite important to understand as well, that I do not want to do anything new anymore. I want to simply wait until we have clear context like we had on the 4 hour, for example, right there to continue lower off of that. So 4 hour context, new 1 hour context. Ideally here, if I look at this 4 hour context to potentially create a new 4 hour value gap to continue lower off that. So again, that can take some time, right? So my trading day here essentially would be done. So that's also very important to understand that I'm not looking at the 15-minute anymore, the 5-minute right now, to now look at a new entry or new context to get involved in. Very important to understand. All right, hopefully this flow session made sense. And this is basically how I personally approach it. Perfect. Thank you.